Lady Gaga is the working name of Stephanie Germanotta, who is an American from Italian descent, singer-songwriter, actress, and of course global superstar. She had a rocky start in the business, doing burlesque shows and songwriting. Her big breakthrough as a pop artist came in 2008, and her breakthrough was sudden and enormous. She is known particularly for her very odd fashions that she wears and for constant reinvention of her visual and musical style. In some ways, she's a bit like a female modern David Bowie in that sense. She has released 5 studio albums and has had mega success worldwide. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was Lady Gaga's second album, and it's my first time listening to it. Of course, I have come across her before, but I don't think I've ever listened to an album of hers in its entirety before. So the easiest description here is that this is basically an album of huge dance floor bangers. It's electropop. There are touches of other things in here. There's little bits of things like rock, mariachi, country rock. It reminded me quite a lot of. I don't necessarily like referring to other albums in case you haven't heard them, but let's do it anyway. It reminded me a bit of Madonna's album Music and Kylie's album Fever, both of which were quite a lot about 10 years earlier than this. But it was more diverse. And the other thing that Lady Gaga's this album has over those is that she actually took the lead in writing most of the songs on this album. So there's all sorts of stuff going on here. Of particular note, there's some massive synth sounds and beats, very kind of the big things that you can imagine in a nightclub. And it also has a particular effect in the sound that comes about, I think, from taking the whole track and then applying a strong compression on it, which is that at some points, particularly when it's going quite loud, when you get the beat from the drum, it actually, because it's peaking the compressor, it actually causes everything else to dip. So after the beat, there's actually this kind of fade back in of the music that comes after it, so that the beats actually kind of give you dips in the music, and that was particularly prevalent in some of the songs early on the album, I found. There's a vast array of different sounds and instrument sounds here. Some of them there's obviously quite a lot of synth and electronic stuff going on, but there's some real stuff in here as well. Particularly there's some saxophone that comes through. Everything sounds very produced, of course. It's that kind of music. And if you want more depth on the different styles broken down by a track by track thing, then the Wikipedia page for the album has endless analysis of the style of this album. If you like this kind of big banging electronic stuff, this is a really strong album and would probably really appeal to you. There's 14 tracks on the standard album, so it's quite a long album. And the themes here are generally of empowerment, individualism, identity. Some of it's about kind of the darker sides of people, things like bad kids and stuff. There's several references to religious, more imagery than ideas, I think, but particularly references to Jesus. There have been mixed reactions to this, apparently, from religious organisations, particularly Catholic organisations seem to have had problems with this. And I can kind of understand why, from the bits that I've understood and picked out. Let's talk a bit about Born This Way, which is the title track for the album. So this is a track that celebrates diversity and self-acceptance, and which are things that I'm very strongly behind. it does it for various different things. The one that is most obviously there in the lyrics is about race, and I think that obviously people are born with a racial background, and obviously people shouldn't be, should be accepted for who they are, and in all senses. The phrase "born this way" has been picked up, and I believe it was the song was deliberately written with this in mind, but has been picked up by the LGBTQ plus community. If I got those letters in the right order, I don't really know. There's probably a new term by now, anyway. And particularly for sexuality, the term "born this way" has become a kind of mantra to put forward the idea that sexuality is a genetic thing. And I would like to throw in that the scientific community is the jury's out on that at the moment. There's some research that seems to suggest that that's true. There's other research that seems to suggest that that's not true. I think that it's, without wanting to dive into this in any depth, I think there is a lot of mileage to the thought that it's not a choice. But those two options, I don't think, are the only two options. There's also the option of learned behaviour, and it's probably more complex than that anyway. I also find it interesting that gender diversity, which is very much in the popular zeitgeist at the moment, is contrary to this idea of born this way. Basically it's saying, I want to be someone different to who I was born. Or at least that's my take on it, and feel free to disagree with me. Anyway, whatever my thoughts on this are, this is considered to be an important rallying cry for diversity, and particularly for LGBTQ plus identity. Let's move on to other tracks. Hair is a track which is about hair. I think it's fairly straightforward, but is interesting. It includes the lines, "I'm as free as my hair," and "I am my hair." But I think it's about using your hair for self-expression, and I can deal with that. There's a track with pseudo-German stuff in it, and the title of the track I am not mentioning because I happen to know, with my tiny amount of German that I know, that it's a swear word. The track "You and I" is possibly about Nebraska, but about some other things as well. It's got more of a country sound to it at times, but it's definitely still kind of dance music. It features Brian May of Queen on guitar, which is interesting. The track "Americano" is not about coffee, but I'm not quite sure what it is about. The track "Highway Unicorn" I felt had very strong similarities in its melody to Poker Face, which I think comes later than this in Lady Gaga's music. The singing is really good. She has an excellent voice. One of the things that it lacks a bit, though, is distinctiveness. There's a lot of comparisons between Lady Gaga and Madonna for obvious reasons, because she's very much taken this idea of very commercial music, but with an edge, and getting a bit of controversy going. And some people would say that she's continued where Madonna has left off. But what Madonna has over Lady Gaga is the distinctiveness of her voice. I think Lady Gaga's voice isn't as distinctive. I think that what Lady Gaga has in this album is more of a breadth and more of interesting things going on. So there's more depth to this album. I wouldn't say it's a hugely deep album because it's pop, and pop can be deep, but mostly it isn't. It's mostly more immediate. So I actually quite enjoyed this album. And as always, at this time, I'd like to invite you to tell me what you think of this album. I don't know if the fact that I've enjoyed this album is going to be controversial or not, because some people will see it as being way too commercial for something that should be of these kind of accolades. But I think music can be good and commercial. Anyway, let me know what you think, and what score would you give this album? And that's it from me for now.
Love is just a history that they may prove, and when you're gone, I'll tell them my religion's you. When punctures come to kill the king upon his throne, I'm ready for Their stones